The NFC West. 8 wins over or under? Over or under? 8 wins, okay? So my honest prediction, Los Angeles Rams at the top spot, followed by the San Francisco Niners, 49ers, Seattle Seahawks, and in last place, Arizona Cardinals. So Los Angeles Rams, they lose Cooper Kupp, but they go out and they buy Davante Adams. So they got Davante Adams and Puka Nacua. Huge targets for Matthew Stafford to do some damage offensively. I think Matthew Stafford is getting up there in age, however. He is 37 years young, so he is getting up there in age. He's got 20 touchdowns and 8 interceptions this past season. So the timetable for Matthew Stafford is starting to dwindle, if you think about it. I mean, I don't know how many quarterbacks go beyond 40, but he's still playing. Is Garoppolo a good backup? I don't see him really playing a whole lot unless something really happens to Matthew Stafford. Then you have Stetson Bennett. Might be better than Garoppolo. But Davante Adams, pretty decent receiver right there, but he's getting up there in age too, so we got to keep in mind an age factor. Kyron Williams, is the running game all that great? Yeah, 1,299 rushing yards. Kyron Williams, just 24 years young. So they have a running game and they have a passing game. How good is that defense, though, you know?
Yeah. So I think the Rams' defense is going to be okay. Their offense is going to definitely have a new look, especially because of Davante Adams' skill sets. But the biggest issue is when the Rams have faced the top tier of the NFL, they have been very average. They have not lost all of them, but they didn't win all of them, and they were really close games. So them this year being the number one team in the division, they're going to face the number ones in the NFL. So to me, Vegas is saying 7.5 because of the strength of schedule. I'm looking at it. It's a toss up. There's 1 or 2 games they may win, may lose, but to me, it's 8.5 wins for this season.
Yeah, I say around 8 wins. Around 8 wins. They also had help from the refs in that one game against the Minnesota Vikings. You know, they grabbed the face mask of Sam Darnold and they didn't throw any yellow laundry around, so that was kind of weird. They did win. I believe they won the first game in the playoffs, and then they lose the following game, but it's going to be a different feel having Davante Adams out there at receiver. But I think that they take the division.
He's not a Cooper Kupp, that's for sure.
Yeah. Davante Adams is 32, so he's up there in age. He's going to eventually slow down and not be as effective. Puka Nacua was injured at one point but came back during the season. 990 yards, 3 receiving touchdowns. 23 years young, man. But Stafford is 37, so you got to keep in mind there, you know. Can this guy still be at a higher level with this offense on how it is? How will they draft, too? But I think that this team is going to be better than the Seahawks and the Cardinals. Can they be better than the Niners, who gave up a whole lot of players? Possibly. But I think Rams take the division. 8 or 9 wins. I'm going to boost it up to 9 wins, possibly.
Yeah. It's going off of tendencies. They were the number one team a couple of times, and when they face the number one teams, they've been average. So, and the fact that, you know, we don't know what is left in the tank for Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
So.
All right. San Francisco 49ers. They still have their guy, Brock Purdy, as their starter? Is he really a top-tier quarterback? Is he, I mean, his numbers were 20 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. That's okay. That wasn't phenomenal. He did way better the previous season at 31 touchdowns and 11 interceptions and a whole lot of yards, but they were a team of injuries this past season. Christian McCaffrey got hurt. Does he come back and put up numbers this season? That's the question. You know, he only had 202 rushing yards, I guess. That's it. He barely played last season. But the season before that, he puts up crazy numbers. McCaffrey, 1,459 rushing yards and 14 touchdowns. So without McCaffrey, this team does not, really succeed. You need a running game for them to succeed. And then they also didn't keep their running back. I guess the other running back went to the Vikings, correct? That guy Mason?
Yes, he did.
So Mason goes. So if they lose McCaffrey again, they're back in the same way of not having a running game of some sort. Brandon Ayuk is kind of an annoyance, I think. He wanted to get paid a whole lot of money, and then he barely played the season. But he put up good numbers the past 2 seasons. But they still have George Kittle and Jawan Jennings. George Kittle, big target for them. 31 years young now. They're getting up there in age, these guys. 1,106 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns. The offense, they lost a couple offensive linemen due to free agency. They couldn't sign them because they spent so much money. Defense side, they have Gross Matos, former Panther, and they lost, what was his name, Greenlaw. They lost all kinds of players. They still have Nick Bosa. He had 9 sacks this past season. Still young at 27, but his numbers kind of dwindled a little bit compared to the previous couple seasons. But that's why I'm thinking that the Niners will still be a good team. They just won't be as good as they used to be, if that makes sense. So I see them kind of at 8 wins, just below the Rams.
So me and you have a little disagreement about who's going to be the division leader. I think the 49ers, the biggest concern is they're going to have to reload on very minimum cap space because of the fact McCaffrey is taking a lot of their money. Now you got Brock Purdy. You have Brandon Ayuk. You have a lot of guys taking that cap space and not enough to distribute. So if they do not find a way to reload, it's going to be a huge problem for the 49ers. Right now, Vegas has them at 10.5. I'm looking at it. The lowest they can go is 8-9, I feel. The ceiling is 11-6. So to me, right around 9.5 is a good sure bet of what we're going to see from the 49ers.
Trent Williams, their top offensive lineman. The guy is 36 now. He's about to be 37 in July.
Right.
He's good, but he can easily get hurt and sit on the sidelines afterwards.
Right.
Fred Warner, he's a good linebacker, isn't he? Fred Warner.
Yes, he is.
He had 4 forced fumbles, 1 sack. Seemed like this team as a whole had they had a down year last season, so many injuries. Ricky Pearsall, he got shot last season, remember that? And he comes back and plays anyway. 400 receiving yards. So maybe, I think there's a possibility they put up better numbers than last season, but I don't know. They lost so many players. Is Brock Purdy really the best that they have at that position? They have Mac Jones as a backup just in case.
Yeah. So, I think the next step is to go and talk about the good old Seattle Seahawks.
Seattle Seahawks. Okay, so Seattle Seahawks, they move on from Geno Smith, and they go out and spend a whole lot of money on Sam Darnold, formerly on the Jets, formerly on the Panthers, formerly on the Vikings. This guy just keeps moving from place to place, okay? Probably has like 5 houses now. Running game, Kenneth Walker. Decent running game. I mean, it's okay. 573 rushing yards. That's not that incredible. They don't have that phenomenal running game. I guess maybe Zach Charbonnet is good. 569. They have mediocre running game pretty much. Jackson Smith-Njigba, JSN. He was a big-time receiver that they drafted. Has over 1,000 receiving yards. They moved on from DK Metcalf, who was a huge target. But then they go out and they get Cooper Kupp, who was injured last year but came back and won some plays for them at the Rams. They have MVS now, Marcus Valdez-Scantling. This guy, he's gone place to place too.
Yeah.
Former Packer, former Chief, I think former Saint, former something for that matter, but
Yeah.
they've got a whole lot of changes when you have a different starting quarterback. So do they have the offensive line to protect Sam Darnold so he doesn't get clobbered? That's a big question. I think when I saw my team go up against the Seattle Seahawks, they were able to easily get to the quarterback. Put a lot of pressure on Geno Smith, so Geno Smith wasn't able to produce the same way. Defensively, they have all kind of questions next to their names. Questionable. I don't think the defense is phenomenal. They're going to be a tough team, but they're not going to be phenomenal if they have no offensive line. Darnold although he has a good arm, he needs protection because he can't handle the pressure.
Yeah.
So I see them at 7 wins.
So Vegas has them at 9.5 wins. The biggest thing, and I want everybody from Seattle to understand this. Darnold is good when he is happy and positive and everything is on schedule. When it goes off the rail and things start becoming his problem in the state, he will fold and he will never learn how to get out of that hole. He did that at USC. He did it with the New York Jets. He did it with the Carolina Panthers. He didn't do it with San Francisco 49ers because he didn't have time to. He did it last year, and he will do it for you guys. You'll look at him and go, wow, he's amazing. He's doing great. We're sitting here ahead in the division, and then he lays an egg and throws like 2 interceptions, and y'all end up being the last in the league. He is one of those players that I question leadership when it comes to adversity. He's a great leader when things are going right. He's not a great leader when things are going south and you need to turn to him to become the big guy that you need. So I think they got some good pieces. I like that they got Cooper Kupp. That's a decent receiver that can help their growth and pedigree to become a playoff team. I think their offensive line is all right. If it wasn't for the fact they were banged up a lot last year. The biggest thing, they were the number 2 team last year. They're going to face the number 2s this year. So if Darnold, this is why they have the biggest spread out of anybody that I've looked at. Their seller for me is 6-11. But if Darnold goes in and actually does like he did with Minnesota, we're looking at a ceiling of 10-7. So right around 8 wins is where I would feel safe if I was going to Vegas and putting money on it.
He's got to learn a new. He's got to learn a new playbook. He's got to build chemistry with a bunch of new players.
Not really, because the guy they got there, McDonald, is not too hard to understand. He's a very vertical offense. He likes hitting different levels, and that's what he had with Minnesota until Minnesota changed their offense the last couple of games of the season, and there you go. That's why Darnold couldn't be successful. You changed your entire play style because of the fact your offensive line was so banged up, and Darnold basically had no other way except for to go south.
And the Vikings acted like they won the Super Bowl when they lifted Sam Darnold up in the air in the locker room. And then completely after that game, he just looked like a completely different guy, those final games.
I wouldn't say that. I think
that's how I saw it.
They did really good with him, but I feel like the Vikings did him dirty because they were telling everybody in the world that, oh, he's our guy, he's our guy, he's our guy, and then, well, nice knowing you. Go somewhere else, and now he's in Seattle.
All right. So, final team, the Arizona Cardinals. They still have your guy, Kyler Murray, and backup Jacoby Brissett.
And then they got this kid, Michael Wilson.
And they got some guy, Michael Wilson at wide receiver. Catches everything. Marvin Harrison Jr. supposed to be really good. They got James Conner with a question mark next to him, and Trey Benson. So apparently they might have some sort of running game with a running quarterback. Running game with a running quarterback with some decent receivers. They have Trey McBride at tight end. But who the heck is on their defense that's stopping players? That's stopping plays? None of these names really stand out to me. When I look at the defense, they have Josh Sweat. I guess if your last name's Sweat, you must be good, right? He has 8 sacks from the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I couldn't. There was no real way to weigh the Cardinals because they are a ticking time bomb when it comes to a team because of the fact if Kyler Murray gets hurt, that team folds fast. They got to figure out how to be successful when that kid continues to run around and try to extend plays when he shouldn't. And then when he gets hurt, you still have to be able to win. You're in the business of winning. If you really want your fan base to grow, you have to win. So what's the problem? Well, you're literally trusting a guy that barely can see over the line.
He's 5'10", yeah.
To win you games and then get crushed every single time. Why? Because the O-line can't figure out how to block different swim moves and spins and stunts. Because last year, he looked like Frank Tarkenton. All these highlight videos I've seen on YouTube about Frank Tarkenton just roaming 20 yards back in the backfield and somehow finding a way to throw the ball. Like, he can't continue to do that. And he's already proven he's known to get hurt, and teams are going to put their best player to knock him out of games because they know the Cardinals have nothing else.
They have a big target in Marvin Harrison Jr., 6'4", 205 pounds. The guy had 885 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns. James Conner, they can have James Conner run the football. He's got 1,994 yards with 8 touchdowns. So the quarterback doesn't always have to run the football. Trey McBride, the tight end, 1,146 receiving yards. So they got some targets on that team.
They shoot themselves in the foot. That's the problem. Because even the Carolina game last year, James Conner got hit and got kicked out of the game, and they couldn't figure out how to win the game. They just let the Panthers, dictate who's winning. So they got to figure out how to still play chess with all their chess pieces, or they're going to have to hit the reset button. But the Cardinals right now with their schedule, I said the lowest they can go is about 4 wins. The highest is 6. And I'd say about 5 wins. But, Vegas is saying if everything is perfect and the stars align, it's supposed to be 7.5 wins. But honestly, they're not going to be that. They are notorious for having injury after injury after injury to key players, and then not being able to win games because they don't know how to use the rest of the chessboard.
I see them at 6 wins. I think the Rams will beat them. Niners will beat them if they stay healthy. Seahawks can beat them if Darnold is protected.
I think they'll have games where they weren't expected to win, but because of the fact that the team they're facing doesn't know how to beat players like what they have on their team, that's going to be key. But in all honesty, 5 wins, and I'm looking. I did my research, and they're probably going to end up being a top 5 draft pick next year.
Yep. So that's the Arizona Cardinals. That is the NFC West.
Listen up. Subscribe to Go Pack Go all day. And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.